Hello everyone. Welcome to the Faculty of Arts Prep Week session on an introduction to the Humanities and Interdisciplinary Studies. This session is for students who are entering the Faculty of Arts this fall, who'd like to learn more about what you can study in arts, what to expect in the Faculty of Arts, and of course, resources and supports available for new students. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amber Ostermann and I do communications for the faculty. I'll be your host for this session. I also want everyone to be aware that this session is being recorded. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that although we are together virtually, the U of M campuses are located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So welcome to today's session. We're so very happy that you've chosen the Faculty of Arts for your education. Here's our agenda for today. We have plenty to cover. Today, you're going to meet Dr. Jason Lebo-McGowan, Dr. Roisin Kosar, Dr. Shauna Ferris, and Dr. Rhonda Martins. You can see what areas each of them are from on your screen. If you have a question during the session, please use the Q&A function to ask it. We're going to open up a time for questions at the end of the session. So we're using the Q&A function, which you can find in the menu on your Zoom screen, not the chat function. The chat function, you will find, we will be posting links and information throughout the presentation that you can certainly copy and save for later, which will have important resources about some of the things that we're sharing with you today. We often find that many attendees have questions that are usually answered during the presentation. So we ask you to please hold on to your questions to the end, and we'll be sure to answer everything before we finish off. You can also take a screenshot of any of the slides that you'd like throughout the presentation. We have some slides with web addresses listed or course names and numbers that you might like to refer to later. Also, remember that we are recording this session and it will be available in a few days on umanitoba.ca and on our YouTube channel. If you'd like to go back and to refer to anything a second time, or if you have friends who had to miss today, please let them know about that so that they can see the session. I'd now like to turn it over to Dr. Jason Lebo-McGowan, who will tell us a bit more about what the term arts actually means and what you can study in the Faculty of Arts. Jason?
Thanks, Amber. I want to extend my own welcome to the Faculty of Arts to everyone out there. I believe and I want to assure you that you've made the right choice to study with us. So the question, what is arts and what does an arts education even mean? Well, arts has a long, the word arts has a long history. It refers to the liberal arts, which is a term that originated in the educational systems of the ancient classical Greek and Latin Mediterranean. The liberal arts referred to a handful of subjects that would prepare people, mostly elite men in those days, not just for certain jobs, but for all of life, and for the art of living well. In the medieval European university, there were seven liberal arts: grammar, rhetoric, logic, geometry, arithmetic, music, and astronomy. These were subjects that any educated person, still, again, unfortunately, still mostly elite men at that time, would learn about before turning to more specific professional training as doctors or lawyers or theologians, priests, and such. Although we're a long way from the ancient world or the Middle Ages, some of these subjects are still taught in faculties of arts today. But let's talk more about arts today and arts at the University of Manitoba. First, we can tell you that you've chosen a popular place. Over 4,700 undergraduate students and just under 500 graduate students have made the same choice that you've made. But what they are studying varies greatly. We hope you'll find your calling here. We have 26 areas of study to choose from and over 75 introductory level courses that will be offered this coming year. Beyond the classroom, we offer many opportunities for students to get involved in something that interests them. We have 5 departments that offer co-op programs and numerous travel and exchange opportunities for when those start up again after this pandemic is over. There are student groups to join and research positions to fill. Even while we are remote at this time, you still have access to professors and student advisors who can help guide you along the way, and you can be a part of activities that give you the chance to experience your university education in a unique way. Faculty of Arts offers 3 Bachelor of Arts degree programs: the BA General degree, BA Advanced degree, and the BA Honors degree. Which degree you choose depend on what you'd like to study and your career plans or future education plans for pre-professional study or for graduate studies. Once you've taken some courses and got more of a feel for your chosen area of study, you may also decide to change which degree path you're on, and that's just fine. You don't have to lock in before you even start. Give yourself a chance to figure out what you like. Now, what do we study in the Faculty of Arts? It's a big faculty. There's a lot of interesting choices. On this slide, you can see all of the areas of study we offer for your major or minor. We've highlighted the 5 areas that currently offer a co-op option as part of their degree program. That's where you can get work experience as part of your degree program. You may already have an idea of what you'd like to focus on, or you may not. Perhaps you've registered for a variety of courses from different areas to help you choose your future major. Many students decide about what to major in after their first year of study. In fact, up to 60% of students graduate from a different program than the one they started in, and up to 25% of students attempt 3 or more programs during their degree. So it's okay not to know right away what path of degree program you want to pursue. What I'm trying to say is that your first year is an introduction. It's a year of discovery. Even if you have clear focus and a goal, we encourage you to listen and learn about the areas we are profiling this week. Maybe you'll get ideas for your major, for a minor, or for what courses you want to focus on as your electives. When you're here at the Faculty of Arts, you'll gain employable skills. At a high level, an arts education will help to broaden your mind, teach you how to gather facts, interpret information, make informed decisions, help you to learn different viewpoints, and also that there is usually not one right answer to a problem, as complex as the world is. You'll acquire the skills that today's employers want, like the ones that we've listed here. We're not a trade school or a vocational school. What we offer is skills-based education that helps to prepare you for a huge variety of future careers, as opposed to any specific career. More than that, and often more importantly than that, we can help you become a better, more fulfilled human being by teaching you how to be a better friend, family member, parent, partner, citizen, and human being. A good life doesn't just happen, and it certainly won't happen if we don't even take time to think about what that means. And a good life is only partially linked to good employment. But of course, that's also important. A good life is the result of deliberate, conscious, informed choices you make about who you want to be and how you want to live. And all the information our courses and our degree programs provide to help you make those kinds of decisions. We help you learn more about the decision-making processes even itself that can assist you to make better choices in all areas of your life. I have a psychology degree, and not a day goes by where I don't apply something I've learned from all that I've discovered, not only in psychology, but in all of the other arts courses that I took when I was an undergraduate, and then later as a graduate student. Okay, now let's talk about what to expect. As we're still in a mostly remote learning environment for the fall term, what can you expect when your classes start next week? Your experience is going to look more like the photo on the left than the one on the right, unfortunately, but here we are. There'll be online classes using tools like Zoom versus packed lecture halls holding over 200 students at a time. You'll set up a study station at home instead of carrying all your belongings to campus for an all-day cram session in the library with your friends. You'll eat lunch in your kitchen instead of in the cafeteria, at least for now. But there are also many similarities to past years. Expectations of your instructors for quality work submitted on time is the same. You'll be introduced to the independent nature of university studies versus what you were used to in high school. Connections you'll make with classmates because of your shared interests and goals, they can still happen, although a bit of a different way in this case. We hope to welcome you all to campus sometime soon. I mean, for me, as soon as possible. I'm looking forward to getting back to campus, hopefully in January. But until then, the university is ready to support all students with your education and your overall university experience. In some of the other sessions this week and in Essentials, you've heard many tips for remote learning. Here are the top tips we've compiled to help you prepare. The majority of courses in the Faculty of Arts will be taught via remote learning for fall term 2020. If you register for a 6-credit-hour course that spans September to April, that course will begin and end remotely. It won't become in person in January if we're back on campus at that point in time, just to keep things consistent for those courses. All courses will be accessible through the U of M's learning management system, which is called Learn. Hopefully you've been using it this summer to complete your online orientation, Essentials. That'll help you get used to the system. To prepare for classes, we encourage you to prep your work area, get your headphones and computer ready, read the course syllabus so you know what is due, when it's due, and how it'll be marked. You should expect a mix of live classes, recorded lectures that you can go back and review, and some supplementary videos. Many arts classes have a participation component for marks. You can still do this online with breakout rooms, polls, chats, and other unique tools your professors are discovering. So be ready to jump in and participate. Testing will also be done online. This can include multiple choice, calculations, short answer, and essays, all the things you'd be tested on paper. Your instructors will provide all the information in advance so that you are ready and prepared. While we're talking about online tests and other assessments, I want to remind you of something you've learned about in Essentials, namely the importance of academic integrity. I'm the person in arts, or at least one of them, who's in charge with dealing with most cases of academic dishonesty, plagiarism, cheating, purchase papers, and so forth. You may find yourself more tempted to engage in this behavior in an online setting, and you may think there are more opportunities. But trust me, the consequences aren't worth it. You can be suspended for years from taking classes at the University of Manitoba. I strongly urge you to familiarize yourself with the university policies and ensure that you follow them. Traditionally, we encourage students to get to know their instructors, visit during office hours, talk after class. You can also do these things remotely. There'll still be office hours and ways to connect with your instructor when you have questions. Obviously, they aren't answering a direct message at 2 a.m., but they are there to support during their regular office times. If you're unsure of when their office hours are, you should ask. Speaking of which, ask questions early. Don't wait until the day before the exam. Make sure you connect with fellow students, teaching assistants, and professors throughout the term to stay on top of the material. While I encourage you to make an effort to get to know your instructors, I also want to remind you of the importance of being patient and respectful in your communication with them, and also with your fellow students. In order to get through this together, we need to be kind, generous, and gentle with one another. We're all going through difficult times. You'll find instructors have varying levels of comfort with technology. Some will use more tools than others. That's okay. The important part is not how flashy it is, but are you able to get the information that you need to learn the material? And remember, don't use your personal email address, Gmail, Shaw, or whatever. You must use your myumanitoba.ca email address to communicate with professors and university staff. Check this email regularly for information on deadlines and important announcements from the university and from the Faculty of Arts. Even though we aren't together in person, we've learned over the last year that we can still build a community together. Join a student group. You can build or join online student groups with fellow students. You can follow social media for reminders to learn about online events and stay ahead of the game. The Academic Learning Center has online workshops, tutors, and more to help you get through your studies. Don't be afraid to use their services. I encourage you to do it. Make contact with them. They can be a big help. They're here for all students. And don't forget, the Active Living Center is open. You can book an appointment to use the gym. Stay active Take the opportunity to get away every once in a while from the home desk you've set up for yourself. Get some exercise, it can really help. There's so many people wanting to help you. Please reach out. You'll find someone who can connect you to the right person for each question that you have. Now let's take some time to talk about what arts is. Oh, sorry. Have you ever, specifically the part of arts that is called the humanities, have you ever heard of them? What areas of study does it include? I'm going to talk about that a bit more. The humanities is a term that developed in the Renaissance to distinguish those subjects that are focused on human society and culture, as opposed to the study of theological subjects, such as divinity, stuff that the church is interested in. One of the aims of certain Renaissance thinkers was to rebalance education in favor of studying human beings rather than God. Today, the humanities refer to areas of study that differ in approach from the natural sciences and social sciences, which are mostly empirical in their methods. In other words, their starting point is direct observation. But the humanities are also distinct from professional programs such as business or social work or architecture and so on. The humanities take critical, reflective, and speculative approaches to their subject matter. Most humanities disciplines also have a historical aspect. There's a lot of overlap between the social sciences and humanities, which is why they're together in one faculty. But the approach in humanities disciplines differs. For instance, you could study the meaning of happiness in the departments of philosophy, religion, and history, or in psychology or sociology, to name a few. The way you'd go about answering that question would be different in each. You'd likely find more similarities among the first three, which are humanities disciplines, than the last two, which are social science disciplines. Faculty of Arts has a number of humanities departments. Many of our interdisciplinary programs are mainly humanities focused. We also teach a lot of languages in arts, and these are usually categorized as humanities disciplines. Today, you'll be hearing from two of our humanities departments, the ones highlighted here in blue, history and philosophy. Let me give you just a quick sampling of some exciting topics that get studied in these areas. You can learn about the films of the famous Winnipeg director, Guy Maddin. You can take a whole course on the history of Indigenous peoples in Canada. In religion, there's a great course on death and concepts of the afterlife. In philosophy, there's a course on the meaning of life. And you can learn all about Greek and Roman gods and goddesses and their naughty ways in mythology courses in the classics. Okay, have you ever heard of the term interdisciplinary studies? Let's find out more about these types of disciplines, interdisciplinary disciplines. What does it mean? The word interdisciplinary refers to areas of study that work across and between more clearly defined categories. So any program of study that combines or involves two or more academic disciplines or fields of study can be called interdisciplinary. It's important to note that lots and lots of scholars and teachers in arts who are in specific humanities and social science disciplines actually work in very interdisciplinary ways. For instance, even though I'm in the psychology department, I draw on approaches and materials from a variety of areas: history, literature and film studies, media studies, sociology in my work, and not to mention other more natural sciences like computer science. In arts, we have lots of programs and even whole departments that don't easily fit into a single field of study. And so we call them interdisciplinary programs or departments. Let me just give you a quick sampling of some exciting topics that get studied in these programs and ways in which you can focus your coursework. You can take a class focused on Inuit culture and Native studies and another on Métis literature. In women's and gender studies, you can learn about the perspectives and struggles of sex workers in Canada. You can also explore the current struggles of Indigenous women and men to attain justice for murdered and missing female members of their communities. You can focus your studies on a time period such as the medieval and early modern period by taking courses across a number of departments. You could also focus on a geographic region by doing the same. Finally, you take all kinds of very cool languages such as Japanese, Korean, Icelandic, Polish, Ukrainian, and Italian, just to name a few. Today, we're going to give you an introduction to the area of women's and gender studies. I now invite Dr. Roisin Kosar, Professor and Department Head for History, to share more about their department and the wonderful things that you can learn.
Thanks, Jason, and welcome everybody. I hope that so far you're getting a sense of a kind of general sense of how the Faculty of Arts works, and now we're going to kind of zero in on some specifics. So as was said, I am a professor of history. I'm actually a medieval historian, and I'm also the head of the history department right now. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes now talking to you a little bit about what history is as a discipline, and then a little bit more about some of the courses we offer in our degree programs and what you can do in our department. And I want to start with something, of course, very general, which is the idea that history is the study of the past. But many of you, and I count myself among you, as an undergraduate student, I really thought, I came to a university to study thinking that history was really all about memorizing dates and people's names and events in the past, kind of the idea of creating a great big timeline. And I didn't think I wanted to do that, to be honest. I didn't think that that was very interesting. But really, that was a misconception. That is that what history is about at any university is it's about interpretation. It's about the question of why. Why did things happen in the way that they did in the past? And when we ask those questions, those why questions, we make connections between the past and our present. And really what that means is that history, as it's taught at universities, is in fact, it's always changing. As the things that we consider to be important in the present change, so does our idea about the past. And so the undergraduate history courses that I took as an undergrad in the 1980s would look quite different to you as you come into your undergraduate degree in 2021. The concerns, the focus, all of those things have changed over time, and that's the way the discipline works. And I think it's what makes history a really exciting discipline. To me, this connection between past and present makes it really stimulating. And I think even we're seeing in the kind of public domain these days with questions of whether statues should be used to commemorate people from the past in public, we're seeing that questions about history are entering the public discourse in maybe some new and interesting ways. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. So here we have a little bit of specific information about the degree programs that you can do in history. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. If you have specific questions, certainly you could ask afterwards, or indeed talk to an arts advisor. It's always a good idea. But suffice to say that if you think that you want to focus on history, you would start with a general major. And then a little bit later on, if you think, oh, I really like this stuff, I really want to do more, you would apply to take either the advanced degree or indeed the honors degree. We have a very vibrant honors program. If you're really interested in history and you want a really strong cohort of other students, I would recommend you looking into the honors program, but that's not really where you start this year. What I'd recommend this year is for you to take a history course. Take one, see what it's like, see how it's taught, see if you like the kinds of questions that we're asking, and then go on and look for some more. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Now, the kinds of courses that you could take if you were just to take that one history course. There's a huge spectrum of courses that you can take right now, right out of high school, with no prerequisites required. And so you can see here that we really run the gamut with these courses. That is, they could focus on something very specific, like the history of one nation, or indeed they can focus on a region or a time period, such as the medieval history course that I generally teach. And they can also focus on groups of people, for example, our Indigenous history and Métis history courses. And these also satisfy that new Indigenous content requirement that I'm sure you've been hearing about, that U of M is just introducing right now. But you can see that you're in the material that you can study. It really does vary very considerably, so you can really follow your interests. Okay, next slide, please. So if you go on, let's say, and take a couple of history courses at those intro levels, as you move up into the third and fourth year courses, they become, to my mind, even more interesting. And you can see here that we have some courses at the third year level that cover things like the history of computing, digital culture, the history of crime, very timely course on disease and society in the modern world. And indeed, a course that we just love, which is a course about food history that actually involves you cooking, students cooking with recipes from the past, and then looking at how those recipes were put together and things like that. So so there's a lot of interesting material to cover as time passes. Okay, next slide. And there are some other opportunities that you have if you major in history. Certainly the co-op program, as we've heard described briefly, is available to you as a history student, but also you can, again, in the upper years, third or fourth year of a degree in history, you can apply for what's called the Undergraduate Research Award. And I had a student working with me this summer on some material from the 15th century in Italy, and she was helping, actually she was constructing a database for me as we worked with this material. So you can do some very, very interesting hands-on work. And I think that in our department, people have such an array of interests that I'd recommend you looking into that. And the other thing I really want to underline here, and something you can get involved in right from your first year, is our Undergraduate Student Society. And you can see the name here. They are particularly active right now. They have a podcast. They have a group that has meetings and events, including remote events. And so I would really recommend that even if you're just taking one history course, get in touch with them. And they're very welcoming and just a very, very interesting group of students. Next one, please. So the kinds of skills that we emphasize in our courses are really about this word critical thinking that you've been hearing this morning. This idea that as you work in history courses, you are going to be thinking about how the world of the past was made, how it was put together. And this is really what critical thinking is all about. We do not expect that you come into our courses with these skills already in hand. Our job is to teach you these skills. And I want to emphasize that so much, because sometimes students think, oh, I don't have a really good memory, or I don't think I know very much about the past. We don't expect that you're going to come to our courses knowing things already. Come with an open mind, come prepared to do some work, and we'll teach you how to do that. So the last question, and the question that your family probably is going to ask you if you decide that you might want to major in history, is what can you do with a history degree? And Professor Lebo-McGowan earlier was saying, we're not a trade school, of course, so there isn't one specific thing that you're going to be able to do with any arts degree when you leave, but you are going to have a series of skills that are invaluable for many kinds of careers. You can see some of them here. But again, I want to underline, and this is something that we've also heard about already this morning, that it's not just about employment. By studying history, by thinking critically about the connection between the past and the present, you also become a more active citizen. You take a more active and critical role in building the world that you want to see. And I think that is absolutely essential. So it's the long and long-winded answer to that question, but I think that it's something to consider, that it's not just about the job you're going to do, it's about the person that you're going to be when you finish the degree. So thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the of these events. And I'm certainly very happy to answer questions at the end.
I now invite Dr. Shauna Ferris, Associate Professor and Program Coordinator for Women's and Gender Studies, to share more about their department.
Thank Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be coming at you today from Treaty 1 territory. And as a visitor to these lands, as Amber suggested earlier, I offer gratitude and respect to Indigenous nations. And I note my responsibility to acknowledge and address past and present colonial violence so that we can all move forward together in a good way. Next slide, please. So what is women's and gender studies? Well, we've already talked a little bit about what an interdiscipline is. Women's and gender studies is also a relatively new discipline, having been established at North American universities and colleges only in the past 40 years. So women's and gender studies is a product of feminist organizing that began long ago, but gained a lot of momentum through the women's and gay liberation movements, through the civil rights movement, also through the Black civil rights movement and the American Indian movement. Many of these movements overlapped to produce feminisms that we understand today and to establish women's and gender studies as a discipline. Some of you will know this already, and Dr. LeBeau McGowan has already mentioned it a little bit, but I'll remind all of us that a few short decades ago, it was possible to do an entire university degree and read, look at, listen to, or otherwise regard only research, literature, art, music, or theater created by men. And here in North America, as in many places really, those male writers, creators, and researchers whose bodies of work we looked at back then were primarily white, middle class, or upper class, able-bodied, and cisgender folks. Cisgender meaning having been born with a body to match, that matched up with how they understood their gender, i.e. to be male or masculine. It was as though women, persons of any other race or color, and poor working class folks had never produced anything worthy of inquiry. Feminism and other deeply interconnected parts of social justice movements and organizing set out to address these alarmingly unjust exclusions. Education is part of the process of moving a society toward more socially just ends. Thus, the insistence on a wider variety of sources for research, creative and literary works to study in any course across the university and certainly in the Faculty of Arts. And thus, the establishment of interdisciplines, such as women's and gender studies and the others that Dr. LeBeau McGowan mentioned earlier. While the title of our discipline focuses on gender, many feminists have always known that the study of gender is only the beginning. How I live my life and experience both oppression and privilege as a woman, for example, is only part of my story. Structures of race, class, and bodily ability also influence how I understand myself and how others see and respond to me. My whiteness protects me from racial violence, but my womanness or femininity, perceived or real, puts me at a much higher risk of gendered violence, i.e. an attack on me just because I am a woman. My position as a university professor imbues my life with a lot of privilege, protecting me from poverty and the well-documented structures of oppression that result in many women workers being underpaid and horribly exploited. But again, being a professor doesn't protect me from gender-based harassment and violence. And I've experienced both in and outside of the university context, as many women have. And to be clear, if you look at the research, what we know, especially as a result of the #MeToo movements over the last 5 to 7 years, between 1 in 3 and 1 in 5 women report experiencing violence of some form that is connected to their gender or their sexuality. Given that we know that much of the violence that people experience goes underreported, I think we can assume that the prevalence of violence across any sector of society is quite common. But my professor privilege in this context enables me to recognize harassment for what it is, that I'm not to blame for it, and to teach and discuss with students how we might change things for the better going forward. In short, as Interpol Gruhl and Karen Kaplan write in one of the textbooks that we use in women's and gender studies, feminism is a set of responses to conditions of inequality. Next slide, please. So I won't repeat some of the very helpful things that Dr. Kossar from history has already said about when to declare a major and when, what kinds of degrees you want to take. I will say that these You probably know this already, but I'll remind us all that one 13-week course is 3 credit hours. Every women's and gender studies course, except for our honors thesis, is 3 credit hours. And the honors thesis course, which you take in or around your 4th year of study, is 6 credits, so spanning, for example, the fall and the winter terms. There are currently no master's or PhD programs in women's and gender studies in the province of Manitoba, and this is the problem we in women's and gender studies have been working for years to address, but the work is still in progress. Next slide, please. So we have 2 introductory courses that also count as W or writing credits. One of those credits you need to graduate with an undergraduate degree from the University of Manitoba. So these are the courses where our faculty most often meet the students who declare women's and gender studies majors and minors. Students come in for the writing credit, but stay for the feminist social justice study. These are pretty big classes, 80 students. Our classes get smaller and more interactive as you proceed through the program. Our 2000 level courses likewise have no prerequisites, so you could treat that as an introductory course as well. And then those classes usually cap out at about 50, 30 at the next level at the 3000 level, and around 10 to 15 students in our courses thereafter. Next slide, please. So every women's and gender studies course considers how different structures of oppression and privilege operate to advantage or disadvantage groups and individuals. I love our current array of courses. These are many, but not all of our current offerings. Our instructors are all experts in these fields, and feminist pedagogy or teaching practices is deeply interactive and student-focused. We're going to talk to you about everything from mom genes and various forms of desire, sex, and love, to understudied lesbians and trans histories and presence, to social justice organizing around the globe, to gender, race, and class implications of public transit, scientific inquiry, and environmental justice, to Black Lives Matter and the prison industrial complex, to colonization and violence against women. Come study with us. We'd love to have you. Next slide, please. So there are a number of unique opportunities we're able to offer our majors in women's and gender studies. The first that I'm going to talk about is our Feminist and Queer Editorial Collective that publishes a journal called FAQ every year and has done so for 10 years, except for the last couple because of COVID-related things that keep people from being able to meet effectively outside of class time. Basically, once someone has declared a women's and gender studies major and has taken a minimum of 2 courses, there's an opportunity to apply to become a member of the student editorial collective that publishes FAQ. The collective then puts together a call for papers and circulates it to students at the university, often in women's and gender studies classes, but in many classes across the university, inviting people to submit work that they've created in classes. This is one of the ways that we encourage our students to think beyond that kind of audience of one to whom we often think of writing when we create academic work, especially if we do it for a class or in school. And also lots of students choose for their submissions to do creative works or different kinds of artworks. So we do have 10 years worth of journals, and we are very much looking forward to getting issue number 11 out within the next year, we hope. The other thing that we're able to offer are paid student internships. These again are reserved for women's and gender studies majors. Folks have a chance to apply for these internships every September. Current internships, we're offering 2 with Mentoring Artists for Women's Art, which is a local arts-based organization, as the title indicates. We also very recently had an internship with Fernwood Publishing, but that stopped happening because they loved our student interns so much they hired them on full time and the internship went away. We'll check in with them again in another couple of years. Some of the other internships we've offered are at places like the Fort Garry Women's Center, Sunshine House, the Sexuality Education Resource Center, or CERC, the Manitoba Status of Women, that also turned into a full-time job for a former intern, and a few other places in this locally. We're in the process now of collaborating with other local feminist organizations to increase and diversify these kinds of opportunity. The purpose of these internships is to support our community partners and to deepen students' knowledge and experience of feminist work in our communities. And then finally, I'll briefly mention that occasionally we are able to find the funds to travel with our students to the Women's and Gender Studies A Recherche Feminist Conference, which happens every year at a larger event called Congress. So what you'll see in the top picture on the right is an image of Drs. Nancy Kang and Dr. Janice Dodd and myself with our honors students Oyinda, Jamie, and Adriana. And that was at the conference that happened at UBC in Vancouver that year in 2019. And then just below that, we have on the left images of our honor students, Joyce, Emily, and Sylvie with Dr. Janice Dodd in the audience at a performance by the award-winning and goddess-like really musician Buffy St. Marie, who's on stage at the Regina iteration of that national conference, and that happened in 2018. The picture on the top left is a quick little, apologies. The picture on the top left on this slide, I'll just say we're very proud. The 10th launch for the FAQ journal. That's the editorial collective you see at the front of the room and the audience as they begin the launch. And then a number of different folks came out to read from their contributions to the journal. Final slide, please. So as many will remind you, you need to know where you're going when you leave university, though that's not always the reason that you're here. You are here for many reasons that have already been mentioned. I'm supposed to talk only a little bit about what our students have done, and I love to talk about all the wonderful things our students go on to do, but it's been suggested that I keep this part short. So social justice-oriented training, such as Women's and Gender Studies, sets students up for a variety of opportunities after they graduate. Many of our students take up work at local outreach organizations here and elsewhere. Many also volunteer in social justice-oriented places and spaces here and elsewhere. Some students continue on to study in the areas noted on the right side of this slide. This summer, I've had the pleasure of hiring one of our former graduates who now has a master's degree and who will be teaching one of those introductory W courses I talked about earlier. And this past July, I received an exciting Instagram message from a Women's and Gender Studies graduate who had just completed her training as an obstetrician and gynecologist. She credited her Women's and Gender Studies degree, even after all that additional training, with continuing to shape her worldview. I could go on, but I'll stop there now. Maybe someday I'll be talking here about your accomplishments. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shauna. Next, I'll invite Dr. Rhonda Martins, who is a professor in philosophy and the head of the philosophy department, to talk about her department and the wonderful things you can learn with the Department of Philosophy.
Thank you, Jason. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'm here to tell you about what you can expect to find out when you study philosophy in the University of Manitoba. You might be wondering what philosophy is, or you might think you already know, but I think it's important to approach this with an open mind because some of the things we study in philosophy might surprise you a little bit. What won't surprise you is that we address deep questions about the world and about ourselves. Philosophy also teaches you to think critically, which is something that you'll learn in any arts and humanities degree, I think, but this is something that we specialize in. So I want to give you some examples of some deep questions or foundational questions that we regularly address in our courses. So for example, when do we have enough evidence to believe in a scientific theory? Or here's one that has been extremely relevant during the pandemic. How can we make rational decisions when we're dealing with incomplete information? On to something that's very personal to us inside of our own heads. What's the nature of consciousness? And do we have free will? If you think about ethics, one of the things we might discuss is whether the ends ever justify the means when we are trying to do the right thing. Also, what does a just society look like? And of particular relevance in today's Canadian context, if there's a social injustice that happened in the past and the perpetrators are in the past, how do we rectify that, especially given that there are still ramifications happening in the present day, as well as, of course, current injustices. We want to rectify those as well. But rectifying past injustices is a particularly difficult and gnarly problem. Next slide, please. Okay, so why study philosophy? There are a lot of personal and practical benefits. So on the practical side, we emphasize clear argumentation, communication, and creative problem solving, which are valuable skills in any field. And I want to point out that there are studies showing that philosophy majors perform exceptionally well on standardized tests, which are an entrance requirement for some programs. So getting into law, taking the LSAT, for example. There are also personal benefits to studying philosophy. Philosophy allows you to think about your life and how you should live it, how you can live the good life. It also involves considering how we should treat others and what sort of society we want to live in. Thinking about these questions can enrich our personal lives. Here are some degree offerings that we have in philosophy. By now, you might be used to this particular pattern. You can take a minor in philosophy or a general 3-year degree in philosophy, or you can take one of our 4-year degrees in philosophy. I just want to say quickly what the difference is between a single major and a double major. A single major is when you're focusing primarily on philosophy, whereas a double is where you can pair a focus on philosophy with a focus in something else. So for example, you might pair philosophy and history, or you might pair philosophy and psychology, depending on what it is you want to do once you're done with your studies. We also offer a master's program, which generally takes 2 years to complete. Here's some subfields in philosophy that we cover at the University of Manitoba. We cover more than this, but I'm just focusing on these. So in ethics, we study the nature of right and wrong. We might deal with questions about medically assisted dying or censorship on the internet. With political philosophy, we'd look at how society should be organized. So for example, should we allow open immigration? And what is a just wage for workers? Metaphysics is a fancy way of saying the study of reality. For example, if you're interested in your mind and how it works, you might want to delve into the nature of consciousness. Are we physical beings all the way through, or is there some non-physical component to what it is that we are that makes up our consciousness, makes up our internal self-awareness? Okay. Epistemology is the study of knowledge. Can we know anything for certain? And what's the difference between knowledge and opinion? You often hear people saying that they are entitled to their own opinion, right? So one of the things we want to think about is what that actually amounts to. And perhaps what we want to be aiming for is knowledge in addition to having opinions, which we certainly have the right to, but knowledge has a more secure foundation. We also study logic. Logic is the study of the fundamental techniques of reasoning. And there's both a mathematical component of logic and a non-mathematical component. The mathematical component, by the way, is the foundation for modern computer science. You can also study the history of philosophy, where you get to meet some of history's greatest minds and greatest ideas. And finally, I'll just mention the philosophy of art and aesthetics. This is the study of the function of arts in life and how they communicate meaning. Next slide, please. So if you're interested in philosophy, we've got 4 introductory courses that you can take. The first is called Introduction to Philosophy. It's a full-year course, and it covers many of the main areas of philosophy. Our other first-year courses are all 3 credit hours, and they have different focuses. So philosophy as a way of life looks at some of the greatest minds and the pearls of wisdom that they have to offer us. And then we think about how we can apply that to our own lives in order to live the best life we possibly can. Then we've got Introduction to Logic and Critical Thinking. Both of those focus on clear reasoning and argumentation, but Introduction to Logic emphasizes mathematical logic more than critical thinking does. But both of those will introduce you to the art of clear argumentation. I also want to point out that most of our 2000 level courses do not require that you've first taken an introductory course in philosophy. And if you're in your second year of university, you can enter these directly. All right, here are some cool courses that we offer. Our course offerings vary from year to year, but some of the courses that fill up fast are robot, AI, and cyborg ethics, philosophy of music, philosophy of law, philosophical theories of creativity, philosophy of sexuality. I didn't put human rights in there, but that's another course that really gets a lot of students interested. Philosophy of science and the philosophy of discrimination, what discrimination is, and how we should deal with it. Next slide, please. Unique opportunities. So we do regularly hire students as research assistants. These are paid positions, but we also have some free events. We've got student clubs that are really active and fun. They organize conferences, movie nights, pub nights, and other events. Currently, there are park meetups where people sometimes get together and they play games and organize reading groups and so on. You don't have to be a philosophy major to join our student clubs or to attend any of our events that are listed here on unique opportunities. They are available to anyone who's interested in philosophy. We also have something we call Philosophical Fridays, where on Fridays we will invite out-of-town speakers to come in and give talks on their latest research. They're free, and you can talk to the speakers one-on-one. We usually organize some kind of meetup between the students and the out-of-town speakers, so that'll help you with any kind of networking that you want to do. And then we also have the Ethics Slam. This is super fun. This happens once a year, and in non-pandemic times, it happens in venues like Le Garage or the King's Head. It's a public event and you join a debate team and you're given questions. These are flash rounds, so that's why it's called a slam. And as it says here, there are no right answers, but you can still win. Some of the core skills that you can expect to learn if you study philosophy. So critical thinking, this is obviously a buzzword. It comes up, and as I said before, I think you will learn critical thinking in any university course that you take. And I can't overemphasize how important critical thinking is. So here we'll talk about thinking critically about the things you hear in the media, online, and from other people. We also focus vigorously on constructing arguments. And this will help you not only with writing essays for any of your courses, but also writing reports and giving presentations in your career. Okay, we focus on clear communication, both in the verbal form and in written form. So you'll learn to present your ideas in a way that is straightforward and convincing. And then finally, we encourage self-reflection, where we examine our own beliefs. And this is good for life. Next slide, please. Okay, I've just listed a few of the career paths that we've seen students go on to take. If you want a more full description, Career Compass, which is a University of Manitoba website that's devoted to helping students match chosen careers to the kinds of courses and degrees they might take. Career Compass has a longer list. I just want to highlight a few. So bioethicist, professor or teacher, human resources editor. And we've had an awful lot of students use philosophy as a pre-law degree. That's a pretty common trajectory for students to take, partly because philosophy majors perform very well on the LSAT, but also there's a very intimate connection between the kinds of things we study in philosophy and the kinds of things they study in law. So they focus on argumentation as well in law, as well as just a very clear and rigorous understanding of language and its implications. We've had a lot of students also go on into education, medicine, government, business, and in particular technology. So we have a number of students who have paired philosophy with a computer science degree. And this has allowed them to become extremely successful because you have this beautiful merging of two sets of skills, right? The kind of problem solving that we teach in philosophy together with the technical skills. That's really valuable in this environment. Okay, so more and more industries are recognizing the value of the skills that we teach, both in philosophy and also in the humanities and social sciences more generally. Thank you for your time.
That's terrific, Rhonda. Thanks so much. And I want to thank all of our speakers, Shauna, Rasheen, as well, for sharing such wonderful information with us on these 3 areas of study. I want to let the people know out there that we have another session tomorrow where we'll cover 2 additional areas of study. In this case, they both fall under the umbrella of social sciences, anthropology and economics. And also we have 10 additional areas that we profile on our YouTube channel. These are videos that cover the same type of information that you've heard today from our professors. I want to encourage you to visit our channel, watch a few of these videos to help learn more about each area of study. You might find something that surprises you and might change the course of your career at the University of Manitoba and in turn alter the course of your life, in fact. Well, we hope that this session helped you gain a better understanding the types of things you'll study and learn in the Faculty of Arts, particularly within the humanities and in interdisciplinary programs, and where those studies can potentially lead you after graduation. I want to assure you once again, you made a terrific choice entering the Faculty of Arts. I wasn't at the U of M, but I entered the Faculty of Arts myself many years ago, and it was the best decision I ever made. So I have no doubt that you'll have the same experience that I had. Seems like a long way away, but at the end of your time with us, when you earn your arts degree, you're going to have all the tools to pursue a wide variety of exciting and challenging careers in today's changing world. Arts degree holders are in demand out there in the job market. Our graduates have gone on to jobs in both public and private sector in various areas, including media, government, marketing, social science, social services, technology. One of my students even went on to work for a spy agency, if you're into anything like that. So the variety of options is limitless. So here we show you just a handful of occupations that may fit you and that you could do with an arts degree and some related work experience. Or you may find you'd like to continue your studies. Many students start at arts and use what they learn here as a base for a specialized degree such as law or education. Or maybe they go on to a master's degree or a PhD. Your time here is what you make of it. There are many choices and opportunities available to you. Most of all, we hope you enjoy it. I'm going to pass it now back to Amber, who's going to take you through the final section with some resources and some reminders for you.
Thank you very much, Jason. Even though you've gone through registration and classes begin next week, you likely feel you're still in the planning stages of your degree. Which degree will you pursue? We talked about all the choices today. What will your major be? We gave you a few options, but as you saw, there are many others. Should you choose a minor to add on to that major? Now, after hearing some of the speakers today, maybe you have some new courses piquing your interest that might fill some of your electives. As we've mentioned, it's okay to not have it all figured out yet. A degree is an ongoing, evolving process, and you have tools and supports to help you navigate it. And we've got some resources to help. Did you know that in addition to all the areas of study that we covered today, we also offer courses in over 15 different languages. You can see them on the screen here. It's often an overlooked area by students, and we wanted to introduce you to our language offerings. We have options from beginner levels to advanced. You can then take your new language on a study abroad opportunity when those start up again, where you can use it and improve it. We have a language lab in the Faculty of Arts with resources to help you practice and apply language skills. In this time of remote learning, we've developed ways to offer the lab tools to our students while you're studying from home. The lab also offers tutors to students who are taking language classes. And when we're able to come back to campus again, there are also many on-campus activities like student clubs, movie nights, and festivals that give you an opportunity to practice your new language. You might decide to take a language just for interest, or to help you with your future career. There's two main ways to stay on top of your degree planning. Be sure to go back regularly and review the academic calendar. This is your guidebook. It's your degree and a course catalog. It helps you to see and plan out each year of your studies. And especially if you decide you want to make a change, the academic calendar is what will help you to decide and to see if you have the prerequisites to make that change. Are you starting over? How much can you transition over to a new degree? You'll also learn about a tool called Achieve while you're here at the University of Manitoba. This is an online degree audit tool that keeps track of what you've taken so far and what you have left to complete your degree. So it helps to keep you on track to make sure that you're not missing out and you can hit the target for graduation that you've set for yourself. Both tools help with your planning. They show you if you've taken the correct prerequisite courses for future courses that you have planned. They track if you're fulfilling the requirements for your chosen major and your degree. You can also connect with a Faculty of Arts academic advisor at any time to help you interpret what you see in these tools. Academic advisors are available to help you kind of understand and navigate through these tools. Links to these tools and a link to connect with an arts academic advisor can be found on our website and are being placed in the chat for you. If you have questions now or anytime during the year, we're here to help. The academic advisors are a trained team to help you navigate your academic options. They can help with things like planning your studies and preparing for future terms. They'll discuss factors to consider when you're deciding on declaring your major. They can help to keep you on track to meet those degree requirements. They can provide information on some of the other general services available on campus and navigate you to the right offices to help you with your questions. And they can give advice to enhance your overall university academic experience. We encourage you to contact the advisors if you're struggling or having difficulties, or you just don't know where to go for help. You don't need to wait. If you're struggling or you're not sure, please reach out early. I'd like to also point out that we have an advisor available that specializes in Indigenous students and one in international student questions. The international advisor also assists with questions about travel study. This is how you connect with academic advisors in the Faculty of Arts. During the fall term, they are available by email, phone, or online chat to assist with any of your questions. We encourage you to email them directly with any and all of your questions. Advising is voluntary, so nobody's reaching out to you. If you have a question, you have to come to us. We encourage you to take a proactive role in connecting with an advisor and do it yearly at least. It's up to you to stay on top of your degree throughout your degree. But remember, we're always here to help. I encourage you to take a photo of this slide, or you can go to our website using the link that we've posted in the chat to find this information. To continue to get yourself acclimated to the Faculty of Arts, we'd like to encourage you to visit our web pages where you can find information on the things we've covered today and so much more. We'd also love for you to connect with us on one or more of our social media accounts. Follow along during the year to learn more about us, the courses that we offer, the amazing research being conducted by professors and students, and to stay on top of University of Manitoba deadlines. We always use social media to remind you of key dates and deadlines, let you know about contests or other opportunities for students, and we share the stories of your fellow students and alumni to give you ideas on majors, career choices, and more. The Faculty of Arts is offering a few other sessions this week to help welcome you. All sessions are being recorded and will be available online so you can watch anytime, even if you have to miss one of the live sessions. The link is on the screen, and I encourage you to take a screenshot for your reference. Our social sciences session tomorrow on Wednesday will introduce you to the areas of anthropology and economics, as Dr. Lebo McGowan mentioned. There's a number of special interactive lectures throughout the week from various faculties that will help give you an idea of what online lectures are going to be like, look like, sound like, how they're going to be. Dr. Sean Carlton from Native Studies and History is hosting one of these lectures on Thursday. In the session, he'll provide tips on how to take notes during an online lecture and how to get the most out of your online studies. He'll be doing this as well as other professors giving kind of these sample lectures throughout the week. So you can attend any of those in topics that might be of interest to you to get a feel for what classes are going to look like. There's also a number of sessions offered this week on academic writing, introductions to student communities like the ASBC one that was hosted yesterday, or financial aid and awards. I encourage you to try to attend or watch as many as you can to help get ready for fall term. So that brings us to the end of the actual presentation, and we're going to open it up for questions. So you can use the Q&A function to type in your question. Some of you have done that throughout the presentation, and we'll address a few of those now. But we'll also, if you have other questions, please feel free to type those in the Q&A portion right now. So you just click on that in the Zoom menu, and you can type in your question, and we'll make sure the right person addresses that. I'd like to remind everybody that we're going to focus on answering questions around today's session topic. If your question pertains to topics outside of that, we'll recommend where you can go to look for those answers. The U of M website's always a good place to start when you have general questions. You can use the search function on the website, or you can use the Ask U Manitoba button that they have to type in questions where you receive an online response. For example, there's dedicated offices, of course, for admissions questions, the International Center, Student Life, and the First Year Center that can answer questions directly related to those areas. So we'll see if there are some questions that we're going to address, and there were a few that came in earlier, so I'm going to start with some of those. So there was some questions in general about co-op, as we had some mentioning about co-op earlier. I'm just going to address that really quickly for folks. So if you want more information on co-op, we recommend you go to the website, and Haley's going to plug that link in the chat again. We've had it in there already. The annual application deadline for co-op for the Faculty of Arts is June 30th. And to let you know, we had a question about what about admissions? How do we know if we're ready to apply for co-op? So for co-op in the Faculty of Arts, you want to be enrolled in the Faculty of Arts. You're going to be a full-time student in good academic standing. You need to have 30 or more credit hours left to complete your program. So co-op isn't something as a first-year student you have to worry about right now. It's something that you're looking into more as you're completing the second year of studies. Each area of co-op has different minimums of minimum GPA to be able to qualify for their program. So you're going to want to look on the website for that. The question that we had asked about psychology. Psychology has a minimum GPA of 3.0, and you would be taking an advanced degree program to do the psychology co-op as an example. So again, look on the site. History is a minimum GPA of 3.0 if you're an honors degree student, or an advanced degree student would be 2.0. Okay, so enrollment is limited, and it's based on academic performance, availability of work term placements, and employer selection. So I encourage you, again, go to the website, check it out. It shows you all of the workshops that you receive as a co-op student, and the support you receive to help you obtain that work placement in each area. So that was one on co-op. Another question that we had, Rhonda, I'm going to send this one over to you. We had a couple of questions come in when you were on your career choices slide, and you mentioned ombudsman. And we had a couple of questions come in asking what an ombudsman was. So I'll get you to unmute, and if you want to tackle that one.
Okay, an ombudsperson is someone who is a public advocate. They work with the government. It's generally an appointed position. So, I mean, as to what type of ombudspeople there are, there's many different kinds. So you could work in healthcare. There's just like the range is wide open, but it is a political position that is appointed by the government, and it involves advocating for certain groups of people.
Excellent. Thank you, Rhonda. Rasheen, we had a question earlier, and I saw that you responded to it in typing, but maybe we can share it with everybody. For a history co-op, maybe you can give us an understanding of some of the types of work placement options that could be out there if someone's interested in looking into that in the future.
Well, I was mentioning in my written comment that that this is very new for history. So, we are just sort of trying to attract students in. Our hope is that that students will, and we will help students find placements within kind of cultural organizations, even things like local archives, that sort of thing. But in fact, given what I was saying about the fact that the skills that you work on in our classes involve things like research and reading and clear writing, and therefore our hope also is that students will find placements in other kinds of organizations and businesses that are not necessarily don't necessarily have a specifically historical framework. But it's my understanding that this is, again, a conversation in progress. So if students are interested in trying to position themselves a little bit more, let's say, within cultural organizations, that's something that we're going to try to help them with.
Excellent. Thanks very much. We had another question, and Jason, I'm going to pass this one over to you. So we had a question of what is the meaning of the term prerequisite? So we use that term a lot throughout the presentation, and students are going to hear that a lot. Can you give us an understanding of what that means?
Right. So prerequisite is a course or courses that you have to complete in order to be able to register in some other course. And I gave the example in the chat. For example, let's say you wanted to take a second-year psychology course. Well, you wouldn't be eligible to do that until you complete the first-year psychology course, the Introduction to Psychology course. So that's a prerequisite. Introduction to Psychology, or Psych 1200, is a prerequisite for all other psychology courses at the second or third or fourth year level. So
great. Thank you very much. And just to let you know, as a student, if you do attempt to register for a course that you don't have the prerequisite for, the system won't allow you to do it. So it watches for that. And that's one of the reasons why we mentioned something like Achieve throughout your degree, because you can look to see if you're not sure, if you have the proper prerequisites, if you're looking to look at a class in the future, do you have the right things? Have you taken them so far? You're able to watch for that and look for that and plan for that in the future. So there you go. Okay, so we had a question here. So as well, Jason, I'm going to throw this one back to you as well, and maybe we can share it with everyone. So there's nothing special. People are asking, is there something special that you need to take a minor from the Faculty of Science if you're a Faculty of Arts student?
Yeah, and no, that's quite common. So any student in our faculty is eligible to take, long as they have prerequisites for the courses that they're trying to take courses from the Faculty of Science. And once you've accumulated the 18 credit hours that's required for a minor, then you can declare a science discipline as your minor. There's no restrictions against that.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you very much. Rasheen, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in because that made me think of a particular something students may not know, and Shauna mentioned about or maybe Rhonda, about double majors. That's right, you're talking about philosophy and history, and it's also possible for a student to do a double major or indeed a double honors program across different faculties. It's a little tricky, but it does happen. So we have a student presently who's an honors history student who's also working in biology. And so if your interests are, you think, well, they're actually quite disparate, but there are ways to make those things fit together, and you can actually come up with a pretty creative and interesting degree as well. So this, talking, and as you've been saying, Amber, about looking at Achieve, talking to advisors, this is the way to figure these things out, right? And to really craft a program that can suit you. And I'm just seeing, and I'll just jump into the question that just showed up in the chat about the benefit of doing a double major. I mean, if you have interests in two different areas, and you want to explore those interests widely, like, this is the way to do it, right? You don't have to choose one thing over the other. It's a fair amount of work, but I'd say for many students, it's really worth it.
Thank you very much. Another question that we had come in was very specific, and it just kind of asked what was required to major in a particular area. So one of the things that we'd encourage you to do is that if you're looking at a particular major, whether that be history, whether it be political studies, whether it be psychology, the very first step that you should take is look at the academic calendar. It's going to show you year to year, planning out how many credits that you should be looking at taking, what order to take the courses in, what are the options that are required, how many electives are needed. You can use that as your first step and as your guide to be able to tell what you should be taking and what you would be taking if you chose that as a major. After that, you can of course talk to the area of study if you had particular questions about some of their courses. You can talk to an academic advisor if you had questions to see if it's a right fit for you. You could also talk to career services if you're looking at a particular major to say if you wanted to go more into, well, what are the career paths and options for a particular area? And they can help to connect you with some of those resources as well. So yeah, the first step would be take a look in the academic calendar under the Faculty of Arts for each major that's listed, and you'll see the complete path and plan for that area of study. Okay, so we'll look at that. Okay, when do I declare my major and or my minor? Is it now? Is it after a year? Is it later than that? What's the recommendation? So maybe Jason, I'll let you handle that one. Because the answer is really, there is no right answer.
I mean, the truth is, we don't put a lot of restrictions on when people have to declare their major. But I mean, although once you start, it's a good time to kind of figure out what you like and sort of test the waters in different areas, see what you would most want to focus on. It's not a bad idea to figure out what you want to major in and minor in rather soon, because there are requirements that you have to fulfill, and it can be more time consuming if you wait too long. So I mean, although there's no requirement to identify major very early, the sooner you can do it, the better, because then it lays out your plan in terms of the years that you want to spend as an undergraduate, the plan of what courses that you want to take term by term, so that you're on track to graduate, you know, within a reasonable number of years. It can be more time consuming if someone thinks they want to major in something, they spend a couple of years in one major program and they switch to another one. They have to pick up requirements in the new major program that they're switching to. So that can lengthen their program of study a bit. So at a very early stage, it's time to test the waters, see what you like. But I would encourage people after, you know, at the end of their first year, really, if you can figure out what you really want to major in, that's a pretty good, nice early time to do that, so that you're well on track to finish your degree program. I don't know if other people have different advice than that, but that's my view on it.
Yeah. Thank you. If I could, sorry, if I could jump in and add to that, when you declare your major, then we know of your existence, and we can reach out to you and help you in a lot of different ways. For example, last year we got our hands on some money and we wanted to distribute it to students who were interested in philosophy. Who did we know about? Well, it was the students who had already registered as majors in philosophy. So we started throwing, I mean, it wasn't huge pots of money, but still, you know, a little bit of money is better than a kick in the head, right? So it's always nice. We can let you know about opportunities that you can apply for. We can reach out to you and find out your interests and match you up with somebody who needs to hire a research assistant. We can't do any of these things if you don't know who you are. So, you know, registering that you have an intention to follow a certain major, that lets us know who you are, and that gives us a way to find you, to make these resources come in your direction.
Great, Shauna. Sorry, so Shauna, you have something to add, and then you can go
ahead, Shauna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to add to what Rhonda has said and what others have spoken about, it's a really good idea once you've decided what major you're going to declare, to reach out definitely to the department, because we can help you to chart your course through your degree as well. Academic advisors are good at that, but we can also provide a little bit more direction, and often the folks who are doing the advising in different faculties or departments will know what courses are going to be offered from year to year. And it's always good to check in so that we can help make sure that you get through as smooth and, as Jason said, as quickly as possible. University is expensive, and we don't want to make mistakes in the courses that we choose and then have to sort of backtrack and do more later. Thanks.
Roisin?
And the last thing to think about too is once you've declared a major, you will be eligible, for example, for certain kinds of scholarships that are considered for people who major in that discipline. So in history, for example, we have a number of scholarships that students majoring in history are considered for without having to apply for them. And so every year, in fact, and some of this is pretty considerable amounts of money. Every year, we determine who receives those scholarships. And again, that group is only those who have already declared their major in history. So lots of good reasons to, think about and declare your major fairly early, as opposed to leaving it until, let's say, your third year.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm just going to throw it out to all of our panelists here to see if there's anything else that you would like to add for the students. If there is, just raise your hands, because otherwise we don't have any more questions in our question box. Okay. I'm going to keep going here then. So I want to thank all of you, the students, for joining our session today. We hope that we've given you the tools to get ready for the start of term and answered some of your questions about what to expect from the Faculty of Arts this year. I want to thank all of our presenters for sharing their insights with us today and sharing information about each of their areas. We hope that each of you will join us next on Tuesday, September 7th, for the Faculty of Arts Welcome Day presentation at 12:30 p.m. Central again. That will also be online. I encourage you to check your student email for the registration link, so that will be how you can join us on Tuesday for our part of Welcome Day. Please continue to watch your UManitoba student email and social media for regular information and for reminders from the Faculty of Arts. I want everyone to have a wonderful day. Good luck with the beginning of term. And again, thank you for choosing the Faculty of Arts.